You know, I've made this video plenty of times before, but I've always referred to this situation, as the times have went on. But today is sort of the day where I sit down and almost put an ultimatum as to basically axing one of the hobbies that I've wanted to keep going forward with. Now, for those of you who don't know, retro video gaming is now the new in thing. There's a market for this shit everywhere. You know, the SNES Mini, NES Mini, kind of like, in my opinion, sort of started that revolution. And now we've got every manufacturer releasing their mini console under the sun. And I would say, aside from Nintendo and maybe two, three others, Sega in particular, kind of, they've almost all unanimously been crap. Now, as I've kind of relayed over the years, I don't really like retro game collecting anymore. And I don't like retro game collecting as in I don't like that hobby anyways. I just really, really hate the community around it. Now, lately on YouTube, I've been recommended a lot of videos about retro video games. You know, I guess I've been searching for it as time goes on. You know, on Google and everything, it kind of permeates through every social media platform you go to, but I digest. So I've been trying to find retro video gaming tools, gaming devices, video games to collect, and it's just become a hobby that's just pointless for me to get into anymore. Now, I've been recommended these games that have given me hidden gem guides, all this kind of stuff, and after watching several of these from several different channels, cross-referencing astronomical video game prices on eBay, Amazon, any online vendor under the sun, it has absolutely pushed me away from this, because now I have witnessed this scam in its entirety. And, you know, I wouldn't make this video had I not stopped the ritual that I do every week. So every week, you know, like on the weekends, I kind of go out and peruse the local gaming stores in my area, because it's just a little outing for me. I get to see some gaming stores. If I find a good deal, that's fine and dandy. Now, this all kicked off because I wanted to collect the Yakuza games again. So I'm a big Yakuza game fan now. I really enjoy the Yakuza games ever since I played Yakuza 0 about 1 year ago. And I was in the market for collecting Yakuza 3 and 4, games that are rarer because they were less printed in North America. Anyways, the point is, I found a copy of Yakuza 3. Now, I go to a store, and Yakuza 3, at the time of me buying it, was about $60 Canadian on Amazon. I went to this store, and I found a copy of Yakuza 3. I wanted to ring the copy up. One of the fine people over there sitting was like, this is $60. So they were giving me Amazon prices in a real game store. Now, the problem is, you know, it's all fine and dandy to do it. I noticed there were other things in the store. You know, cartridges from the SNES era for various video games that I'm pretty sure were not actual real cartridges. They were probably repro carts priced to the point of being near collectible items. And I realized to myself, this retro game, this used game, this nostalgia baiting business is a complete sham in of itself. You know, I've talked over the years, you know, when I made that video about emulating and why it's not a sin to do, you know, there were plenty of these retro gaming channels that almost demonize the audience for running an emulator. Like, you're not a real gamer if you're not playing on a fucking actual Super Nintendo, bar the fact that running games on a Super Nintendo, you know, that console gets tilted once, game's out of commission, things aren't loading right, that cartridge starts to oxidize, good luck trying to play it. The battery dies, save file, fucking dead file, my guy, it is gone. You know, when you're playing on real hardware, you give up sort of those conveniences in the modern day, like cloud saves, like better looking visuals, God bless, like an actual working frame rate. You miss things like, what's that again? A fucking playable experience in comparison to what you had in the past. You know, I don't give a shit about the whole demonizing. I don't really care. I'm not going to spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars to play Chrono Trigger. It takes me one emulator file on the internet and a ROM, and that's fucking it. I have the game digitally on a bunch of other storefronts anyway, so no, I don't actually need to have an actual SNES device and the real cartridge of Chrono Trigger to be able to play Chrono Trigger. That doesn't make me any less of a gamer. That doesn't make me a bitch. I'm sorry, it's called intelligence, all right? There's some motherfuckers dumb enough to spend thousands of dollars on a cartridge? All right, thousands of dollars, that's a car right there. That's a sizable down payment on a fucking home. Instead of spending your money the right way, I guess you feel better playing a game in the original official way, despite the fact that most of these gaming companies like Nintendo, PlayStation, Atari, whatever, have basically released their own emulator boxes. You fucking think for a second that SNES Classic isn't emulating games? You're out of your fucking mind. It's a fucking chipset that is running an emulator for Super Nintendo games. PlayStation Classic, you want to know what that is? PCSX rearmed emulator, just smashed in there by Sony. A couple of image files, to run the games and all. That's all it is. At this moment in time, the companies that you like to defend and want to play their original copies for, they're emulating their games too. They've been emulating them for a fucking decade plus now. PS3, that bitch was emulating PS2 games. So let's not pretend things are squeaky clean. I think I own a PS2 game or a couple on my PS4 that are shockingly emulated on the actual device. So you know what? Emulators aren't a sin to do. Jesus is okay with that. You're not going to go to hell if you decided to emulate Final Fantasy III one night. God isn't going to throw you into the abyss if you decided to emulate Leisure Suit Larry on DOSBox. That's not happening, okay? That's a reality. Anyways, let's go back to topic. So retro gaming is one of those things where it's gotten incredibly pricey over the years. And I would say we're reaching a point where trying to collect for any console is almost reaching insanity levels. When I started Super Nintendo was already price hiked to no comparison. There was no point buying Super Nintendo games because the prices for a lot of these rare Super Nintendo games were in the fucking, $70, $80 a pop. Which, by the way, when you look at $80 a pop now for some of those SNES games, they're not worth even close to that. Even reproduction cartridges that have basically been produced by taking common games that you could find like Duck Hunt on the NES, re-injecting that with a ROM of a rarer game, changing how it looks, and releasing that. That's what a repro card is. And even those are sold for like $60 a pop, $50 a pop if you find a dumb enough seller. And the thing is, when I look at the YouTube community for a lot of retro gaming channels, and they're basically hyping up these games that don't really even need a reason to be hyped up, they're astronomically knocking up the prices. Why? Because some of these gaming channels literally have money invested in like a video game store, a retro video game store. That is literally a non-profit organization at this moment in time, because you don't really open a retro video game store to make fucking money anymore. It just doesn't work that way. But anyways, I digress. These people have investments they've put into retro video games. So they have to basically tell you these games are worth so and so amount in order to keep sure their investments have some form of a standing ground to them. And this is where it I absolutely despise the retro video gaming community on YouTube and in general right now, because it's gotten beyond the point of actually even playing the game. These games are meant to be played. Final Fantasy III is a great game in my opinion. It's a great game to fucking play, not a great game for me to put up on a shelf and look at occasionally and say, I own Final Fantasy III. No, you're meant to be playing these. So regardless, when you have these people price hiking it up the ass and making you feel bad for emulating it, go screw, you get out of here. It's not, you lost the plot of the entire problem right here. And when you move up to consoles like PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, even PS2, yes, I would say the only console that you can collect games for that are like logical now is like original Xbox. And even then, that's still gonna die too after a couple of years. We're reaching a point where collecting games, games to play. And by the way, I'm not collecting these for putting them on a shelf. I literally want to get the game and play them on an original Xbox. I have an original hacked Xbox. I have an original hacked PS2. I would love to play some of those classic PS2 games on there. And at this moment in time, because of how absurdly high priced some of these used games are, I'm resorted to literally downloading ISO files and emulating them. And before you start screaming at me with the whole piracy argument, allow me to explain something. If I download an ISO file of a game that nobody is selling anymore, it is not in the market, the developers cannot make money off of an ISO file, or that game in general that I'm downloading. Say, for example, Dragon Quest, I think I don't know. Let's say for argument's sake, Need for Speed Most Wanted. EA Games couldn't make money off the PS2 version of the game. If I torrented that game on the PS2 and ran it illegally, as some people would say, that is no way different than a retro game scalper selling me that game for 70 bucks. PS2 brand new sealed and calling it a day. At the end of the day, EA Games doesn't get a fucking sale. So the whole piracy argument doesn't make any sense. Retro video game collecting on YouTube, just in general, the market has been overtaken by people who have no connection to video gaming whatsoever. These guys don't care about classic video games. They don't fucking care. They have no connection to it. You can ask them anything about video gaming and they'll probably just stop at like Fortnite or something. That's all their level of gaming goes to. They realize that nostalgia is the biggest moneymaker in today's day and world. And unfortunately, you have plenty of people taking advantage of the situation and basically ruining the market for everyone around them. At this moment in time, honestly, I've stopped even bothering to go get classic video games. I'm just not going to do it. You know, I'm smart with money. I'm not going to waste it willingly in this situation. Like, I'll buy a game here and there, but at this moment in time, some of those classic games that you want to get, when you realize they have been price hiked for no reason other than supposed hype, it is a pointless investment to get into. It is pointless to waste your time with, especially nowadays when even just playing the game has become a simple affair. You can go on to many virtual console-like services for a lot of these big developers and get games for like $5-10 a pop. So I don't understand why retro video game collection has got to this moment in time, like with these original as fuck copies. You know, at this moment in time, even getting a copy that's been like pissed on, that's been run over with keys, you know, run over by a dude's car, all right, used as a sex toy, can price you up to a point that is just abnormally high. And at this moment in time, for me, the last straw was noticing it in my local market. You know, I could go to a flea market, I could go to a fucking garage sale, I could go to any place in the world to find myself an old copy of a video game, because you know what, it was a nice little hobby for me. It was a nice little thing for me to do, you know, aside from everything else. And now it's kind of been taken away from me. Why? Because nostalgia is one of the biggest money makers right now. And honest to God, ladies and gentlemen, retro video game collecting has become a goddamn farce. Play video games for the sake of it. And people on YouTube, let's relax with the hype beasting on a lot of these classic video games. Let me tell you, some of these SNES games you guys are hyping up to the end of the world are not worth the prices that you're trying to sell them at. And trying to sell me eBay, Amazon prices in a local store will just never work. You can shame me all you want, but it's just not going to keep you in business. I'm just going to say it right now. And again, the whole emulating thing, yeah, it's not against the word of Jesus anymore. You're not going to go to hell for running Demon Souls on RPCS3. Nobody's going to give a shit, all right? It's all done. It's all over now. But I figured I had to get that thing off my chest. Unfortunately, one of the things that I was really excited for has now died. Like, I can't do it anymore. And it's died for the stupidest reason ever, because there's just been a lot of greed in this industry, regardless of it. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, this is me, Mutahar, and this is just, honestly, the retro gaming scam pile that it is. Look into it as much as you want. Try to see how much it's been going up over the years for no bullshit reason other than, again, just people trying to bank off nostalgia for the sake of it. That being said, ladies and gentlemen, play games for the fun of it. Please don't be a dipshit. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike if you dislike it. I am out.